Hi everyone, Steve Crosby here. Welcome to this edition of Monday Morning Musing. We are continuing on in Matthew 18, talking about how it can go sideways and some of the deviant and harmful ways that it is expressed. There's another problem with the speech control motif. Now, your average church is led by someone with a pastoral gift. And the ones that I have met, both the legitimate ones, those who shouldn't be pastors, and those who are absolute corrupt, lying, cheating fakers, the whole spectrum of the pastoral bandwidth, the fabric of their existence is they just want to keep it nice and friendly. They don't want anything rocking the boat, because a boat that rocks means problems. It means hours of pastoral conversation. It means people leaving the church. It means I get in trouble with the district. So your average pastor wants as bland, non-disturbing atmosphere as possible. And that effectively silences the prophetic voice. And when I say the prophetic voice, I don't mean sin sniffers, and I don't mean people who think it's their job to run around and tell everybody else what's wrong with their life. I knew somebody once who thought they were quote unquote a prophet, and her ministry was after the service, she would run around and in the parking lot, and she would put the sin, what she perceived to be everybody's sins, under, as a message under their windshield, like a flyer in their windshield, calling up their sins because they're prophetic. That's not what it means to be prophetic. The prophetic voice always takes the side of the oppressed, the widow, the poor, and it always takes the side against power structures, be they political or religious. There's a reason the Old Testament called the prophets the troublers of Israel. You're a troubler of Israel. And for example, if a pastor had been in charge of the David and Nathan confrontation, David with Bathsheba, where the prophet, publicly says to David, "You're the man." He violated Matthew 18, because Matthew 18 says, you need to go to the person privately before you speak. Oh, you spoke publicly and you didn't go privately first. And this is not an excuse to use the prophetic gift, the church platform, the pulpit, to publicly embarrass people. I'm just using that as an example, a biblical example of someone in the old economy, the Jewish economy, who didn't follow Matthew 18. And I want to give you two examples from the Christian scriptures. Both of them are from Corinthians. "Those from Chloe's house have brought a report to me. I hear that there are dissensions among you." This is St. Paul to the Corinthians. And then Paul proceeds to write a letter based on a second-hand report. He didn't have a private conversation. He didn't take each member of the congregation aside to get their side of the story. What? Paul didn't understand the principles of Matthew 18. Even, Matthew wasn't written by the time. I understand that. But, that's not right. He should have talked to everybody. When Paul confronted the teachers in Galatia, he says, "I rebuked them publicly." And he said, "I don't care what their reputation is. I don't care if they think they're pillars. I don't care whether, their claims to apostleship. I rebuke them openly." Oh no, Paul didn't follow Matthew 18. He should have taken, Peter aside and had a private conversation with him. Well, we know that he did, because that's God's way. You don't know, you're making it up. You have no idea if he did. We have no record in the text that he did so, particularly in his letters. Another example, in the situation in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, where they're putting out expelling the individual who's had sexual relations with his stepmother, whatever. That could be a conversation all in itself. But the word used in that passage is the same word for rumor. It is rumored about you that you do things that aren't even as heard of amongst the pagans. First of all, that's not true. If you knew what was going on in Rome with the Catamites, look it up, Catamites, and all the other things, to say that what was going to sleeping with your stepmother was something unheard of. So Paul was either using extreme rhetoric or irony, or he's saying this is just a rumor. Now Paul's putting somebody out of the church based on a rumor. He didn't follow Matthew 18. And in our culture, everything is solved with counseling. So, before anything is said, before anybody does anything, there has to be counseling. So everybody gets to say their bit. Now look, there may be general wisdom that we can glean from Matthew 18 that will help our human interpersonal relationships. Do I think it is smart when there are two parties in conflict to go and get both sides of a story? Yeah, I do. But I don't want to make it into a New Testament law. I'm not going to put it into the church bylaws. It's going to be based on the circumstance, based on the ability to reach the people. What if one of the persons is dead? You can't have a conversation with them before you go to the leadership. So there are things in the scripture that are designed to help us in our human dynamics. If a legal and a controlling spin is put on them, they become destructive. And when Matthew 18 is reduced down to a mandatory church protocol, you've crossed the line. You're in a very unhealthy place, and I recommend you consider finding a different fellowship. I'll see you the next time.